Red Dead Redemption 2 and Metro Exodus are two critically acclaimed and well-received games that got some criticism for being too slow, that they have unnecessarily long animations, and that the gameplay isn't fast and fun enough. Now, while I personally greatly enjoyed these two games, I can see where the criticism comes from. Personally, I actually found these slow mechanics to make for a better gaming experience. So I want to explain in this video why the same mechanics can improve the experience for some players while worsening it for others. Red Dead Redemption 2 is often described as a cowboy simulator. Simulator is a very good description here, and I think it's one of the reasons for the existence of some of the slower mechanics of the game. It puts a lot of effort into making you feel like a cowboy adventurer, traveling the Wild West, getting into brawls and shootouts, and just generally having a swell time. Your horse is your constant companion. It carries all your stuff and will follow you even if it has to keep up with the train to do so. But you also have to take care of it. You have to feed it and care for it to keep it healthy and strong, and if it dies, it's gone forever, so you have to be careful. The weapons are also complex. You can upgrade them both mechanically and visually, and most of them have a large variety of ammunition types. But you can only carry 2 guns and 2 pistols, while the rest are stored on your horse. You also need to clean your guns every once in a while to keep the stats up. And don't forget to take them off your horse when you need them. One of my earliest deaths in the game came about because I forgot to equip my guns after arriving in town and was gunned down in a random encounter. A specific mechanic that was often described as tedious was the hunting mechanic. In Red Dead Redemption 2 you can craft upgrades for your camp and costumes using pelts gained through hunting. But only perfect pelts can be used for crafting, and these are only found on specific animals. These animals need to be shot with the right weapon and hit in specific weak points to prevent damaging the pelt. This process can be fairly tedious when searching for a specific animal pelt. Finding the correct animal is time consuming and it can be very frustrating to finally find the right animal only to accidentally miss the shot and damage the pelt. Compared to a game like Assassin's Creed, where hunting an animal just means killing them and collecting the rewards, this mechanic is a lot more tedious. On the other hand, it's also a lot more rewarding to actually get a good pelt in Red Dead Redemption 2, since it requires a lot of effort to do so. Personally, I found it best not to actively look for specific animals, but rather to hunt them as I found them traveling around the map. I still got more than enough pelts this way to get all the upgrades to my satchel, and the other uses for pelts are mainly cosmetic. There are also powerful perks that you can get by hunting legendary animals and crafting trophies from their remains. Hunting legendary animals seems more complicated at first. You have to follow a trail of hints of the animal's presence until you find them. But ultimately it's actually easier and less complicated, since their pelts can't be damaged. You can blast them point blank with a shotgun and you still get everything you need. All of these mechanics and more combine to encourage players to think like a cowboy adventurer. You want to go on a mission, so you check your gun's condition, feed your horse, eat something yourself. Maybe you visit a fence on the way to make room for potential valuables. While these mechanics are repetitive, they put the player in a cowboy mindset and thus tremendously help in getting the player immersed. This effect becomes even more apparent if we further compare it to the Assassin's Creed franchise. Assassin's Creed often switches between different historical settings for different games in the franchise, yet very little mechanical changes get made. The most recent game plays in ancient Greece and features ship combat and exploration. It is a good feature, but mechanically it's near indistinguishable from using a pirate ship in Black Flag. Your cannonballs are now arrows and you get a short-range spear attack instead of a more precise cannon shot, but otherwise it feels the same. This shows different design priorities. Red Dead Redemption 2 was very much designed with a cowboy simulator feel in mind, while Assassin's Creed was designed to be more convenient and easy to have fun with. The Metro series is even more immersion focused and has been for all of its games. The games are played in first person and feature many well done animations for various actions, from climbing ladders over refueling generators to scrambling away from huge monsters. Everything is meticulously animated to show the whole body of a protagonist Artyom. The games play 20 years after the world was annihilated in a nuclear blast, and the survivors from Moscow are holed up in its vast underground metro. The game features two different modes, Ranger and Spartan mode. The Spartan mode was introduced in the second game after complaints about the first game's difficulty, and came to the first game in its re-release. Having played both, Ranger mode seems the intended mode to play. Spartan mode makes your character hardier and resources more plentiful. It makes things easier, but also puts the teeth from the game's dense and oppressive atmosphere. I will continue talking about the Ranger mode experience of the game, as I think it's the intended mode from the developer's perspective. The desperation and struggles of the apocalypse get represented very well in the game's mechanics of the Metro games. A lot of areas require the use of gas masks to survive. These require you to find filters which only last a couple of minutes. You need to scavenge every place you find, despite being under constant time pressure from your filters. When you place a filter, Artyom sets its clock on his left arm, showing how much time remains on the filter. You can hold up your arm to check your clock, but doing so means you are not holding your gun, which makes you less accurate. The filter running out will also be announced by heavy breathing, but this will alert nearby enemies and ruin stealth. Some of my most tense moments in the game came from sneaking through an enemy camp, debating in my head whether checking the clock was worth being less defensible should I be discovered. The map in the game is also immersive, as it's a physical object that your character pulls out, with your current objectives scribbled on the other side. You also have a lighter, which can illuminate, but more importantly, burn spiderwebs, which impede your movements. Again, these actions impede your ability to shoot, and the risk needs to be considered. The developer's intention on immersion can even be seen in the game's morality systems. The Metro games feature a very subtle system, awarding the player morality points based on certain actions. The progress is not shown to the player, and the only indication that you got a point is a subtle flash of the screen and the sound of dripping water. Collect enough points and you get the good ending. These points are awarded for very different things. Some actions that are generally considered good award you points like saving prisoners or giving money to beggars, but you also get points for listening to NPCs, playing instruments, and exploring hidden nooks and crannies in the environment. In short, you get them for immersing yourself in the game. In the third game, the system was relaxed a bit. Instead, you have 3 levels in the game that will have a different fate for your companions based on your actions during that level. If you achieve a good result for at least 2 of your companions, you get the good ending. The moral actions are also a bit more obvious, and your companions will sometimes hint at what actions would be good to take. But not everything is perfect when it comes to immersion in the Metro games. The protagonist Artyom is a silent protagonist. He does talk, but only as narration during the loading screens.
Our journey finally got a definite purpose provided by the transmission from the government bunker.
This leads to some awkward feeling moments in the games where you would expect Artyom to say something in conversations, but he doesn't. This is already the case in the first 2 games, but becomes more pronounced in the third game, since Artyom's actions and ambitions directly cause the game story to happen. Often first-person protagonists are silent because it allows the players to more deeply identify with the character. This works because often the main character is mainly a projection of the player in the game world. This doesn't work as well in the Metro games because Artyom is very much his own character. He has his own dreams and desires, and it is his actions outside of player control that ultimately lead to the story of Metro Exodus. I don't really understand why the protagonist is kept silent here. It's ultimately not a huge problem, as the developers do a great job of portraying Artyom's feelings and intentions through his actions and animations. I just think it would be better without a silent protagonist. Aside from the moral points, the mechanics of Exodus are very similar to the previous 2 games. So why would someone who enjoyed the previous 2 games have problems with the lack of convenience in Exodus? My theory is that it's false expectations. Many trailers of the game show sweeping landscapes and very diverse biomes. This leads many to believe that the game is open world. It's a misconception that I heard many times. The game is not open world, it consists of 6 levels. 3 of these are very linear, like most linear shooters. Another level consists of multiple smaller open areas strung together in a line, and only 2 levels are actually open, one of which is the second level in the game. The problem here is that going into this level expecting an open world experience can make you play it in a way that is less fun. I want to show you the intended level progression now, so spoilers for the second level of the game. I will show the rough location of optional collectibles and the path the player will take in the main mission. If you don't want to know this, I put an annotation here to skip forward in the video. So here's the map of the second level. It looks very open with a lot of space to explore. Now these are the optional locations I found during my playthrough. These don't include all the lore collectibles, but do include all the suit upgrades that are in the game, which I think is a reasonable level of completion. As you can see, these are fairly spread out and all over the place. Now I included the path that you will take during the main quest. You can clearly see now how deliberately designed the level is. All the optional locations can be easily found by very small excursions from your path during the main quest. In my opinion, this is the way the developers intended the game to be played. Following the main quest while doing small excursions to landmarks makes for a very fun and also decently paced experience, as opposed to many open world games where the story takes a back seat for large chunks of time. This difference to other open world games might be the problem here. A player expecting an open world will likely start aimlessly wandering, which in Exodus means fighting lots of mutants which don't give you any resources, while costing you bullets and medkits. Spending an hour or two in this first level fighting mutants and losing the few resources you can scavenge could easily make a player frustrated with the mechanics which don't allow them to take the mutants out while using less resources. This is intended as the player is supposed to avoid unnecessary fights, just like you would in a real survival experience. Taking the main quest path gives you enough lootable locations and few enough mutants to get by comfortably. I think this is a problem for both Red Dead Redemption 2 and Metro Exodus. A lot of open world games over the years have continually polished their experience for most accessibility and convenience possible. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. These games are quick to pick up and immediately fun to play, but it has influenced the expectations of some players going into games that they perceive to be open world games. They expect a certain style of play, and that can lead to people being less open to games that try something different. Overall, this isn't a big problem. Both Red Dead Redemption 2 and Metro Exodus have been received very well by both reviewers and players, but I think it's interesting to look at where some complaints come from, and it shows that it's easier to enjoy certain games by going into them with as few expectations as possible. Thank you for watching my video. I don't like to beg for interaction, but since this is my first video, it would be great to hear other opinions of the quality of the audio, video and writing. I hope you enjoyed this video and I wish you all a very good day.